diner, lives in a small town called Lanford. And in high school, she was spirit captain. Whatever that is.
Lovely. We're going to Lanford. Where is Lanford?
What doesn't kill us is making us stronger. We're gonna last longer than that greatest wall in China. Oh, that rabbit with a drum. If there's one thing that I've learned while waiting for my turn, it's that in each lifetime.
Hey everyone, welcome to Rosexanadu. Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy to have you, and I'm so happy to be here. There's a lot to talk about, so I'm just going to jump right in. This is episode 3 of Rosexanadu, and we're talking about Roseanne episode 4, and then we're also just going to kind of shoot the breeze a little bit. Episode 4 is pretty light, and it's just me, so I thought we could kind of just talk and spitball and sort of maybe discuss the grander vision for like what I could see the podcast being, and that's just obviously speaking for like what I want it to be. It's just for me, but I'm so happy, for those listening as well. And if anyone has feedback of like what they're more interested in, if they're more interested in Roseanne, or if they're more interested in the more like general themes, that we're kind of going for, and that I'll talk a little bit about more today probably. Go ahead and like bring me that feedback. You could email me or find me like on Instagram, or if we're friends, then obviously you know how to get in touch with me. So thanks again so much for being here. And yeah. So we've got the Roseanne aspect, and that is, a show that I love and hold like so dearly, as I do many things. And like all of the things that I love sort of have like a special place in my heart. Like I would say that Seinfeld is my favorite show, and even though it's just a show, it's just like, things can mean more to you than like what you might assume is the sum of their parts, because it could have come to you at a time when like you really needed it. And that's like how I feel about movies and music and art. But then I also feel that way about like a certain number of special silly things like Roseanne and Seinfeld and stuff. And I am like, I'm a fangirl at heart. I just love stuff very deeply. And so I love many, many things and many aspects of life besides art. Like I love my son, and I love like our area that we live in, and nature and my friends and family, and all of like the things that go along with all of those wonderful things. And then like I just truly love spreading my passion and love to like art, and that includes like enjoying things. And like I think that if you try to live life like it is art to live life, then or like art is a life to be like cultivated and curated sort of, then you get to like love things really deeply and experience things deeply. And even if it's something that like could seem corny like Roseanne, it could be also so meaningful, and I love that. And I think that like it's time to start really celebrating like that, maybe. I'm like kind of thinking as I go here, because this is something that usually just like lives in my head, you know what I mean? But I am an artist. I've always considered myself an artist, and like my medium changes. Sometimes I make zines and write, and sometimes I paint, which is what I do more of the past few years. And maybe you know me from that, and we've connected over that. So I probably won't go like too much into that, but we can always connect in that way, um, outside of the podcast, and maybe it'll come up again on the podcast. But yeah, just like to sort of riff on that, I guess, that's why I think that Roseanne being such a wonderful, I know I've already said this, if not in the last episode, I definitely think I touched on it in the first episode, how Roseanne is like special. It's like there were a lot of shows on in the 90s, but this one was special not just to me. It's like objectively a special show. It's kind of how I feel about it. So, yeah. And I know I already did touch on some of what makes it special, but I think that like as season 1 goes on, it just becomes every episode is just so good. Basically every scene is so good. It's like charming and so true to life and so silly. So, but it's like the reason I want to talk about it goes beyond all of the things that I could list that I love about Roseanne. And when I say I love Roseanne, I'm talking about like the TV show, even though I think I touched on it in the first episode. It's like my heart still goes out to Roseanne and I still love her, even though she's like kind of done her like community wrong, in like flipping so strongly in her life, her real life. But like I said, like I still love her because of what this was, and I can love her in every episode. Like love that version of her. So yeah, just let's see which thread to pull on next. I think that what I'm saying is that I could list on and on right now what is amazing about Roseanne and like all the funny moments and how hard all the cast goes and how hard the writing goes and like how refined it is, and like that's obviously why all the writers and creators went on to do such important work. Even if I don't love like what they created, I still can recognize, or it's not for me, I can still recognize how cool it is. So um yeah, I think that 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 is something that we will talk about and explore as like we talk about the show. And I think that we're going to have like more guests on, and those will be friends of mine and possibly people who you're aware of too or friends with. Like if you're listening to this, we have might have those mutual friends. And hopefully we'll like learn about each other more through Roseanne, and hopefully like you'll learn a bit about me, or I'll just get to share a bit about me as we talk about Roseanne. And I just think that it's like when something is so fun and enjoyable and like comforting, and I think I said this in the first episode, it's like you need things, especially now post pandemic, and it's like we're sort of in like a new era because of what that sort of did collectively. I personally, and I can just speak for myself, but I have seen it in other people too, or talked about it with them, or seen it as a theme out in the world that like, there's a need to recognize when you need to rest and recharge. And sometimes it's like once you start resting, you realize you were burnt out, you didn't even know it, you know? So I think we've probably all experienced that, if at this point or by this point, or like are experiencing it. And things like this are just things that like ask nothing of us really, but to be like open and enjoy in it, like relish in something so good. And I mean, if you haven't seen Roseanne in years, like I said in the first episode, I had not seen Roseanne for like literally almost 10 years because I was just like, I've seen it. I've seen it to death, But at the same time, it's like I haven't seen it as this version of myself until I rewatched it last fall, And I have a whole new appreciation for it, and it makes me like truly happy and feel things, and like helps you process things, but like in like a fun, restful way. That is just mostly like silly and funny and delightful. So that's sort of why we're going to talk about Roseanne and then like let it sort of lead us down a path. So then something I feel like I haven't really touched on before we do just talk about the episode, which that's going to go really quick because that was first episode that they're just in the house. I think, yeah, because the next episode they go back to like the factory. There's some great Jackie and Booker stuff that is just enchanting, and oh, it's so great. It's getting so good. But then, yeah, this one was sort of necessary to like see how the dynamics are and have the dynamic between Jackie and Dan become like more loving and close and not so like antagonistic, which is sort of all we've seen them do in the first three episodes is be like a little bit antagonistic towards each other. Okay, so the Rosanadu is the complete picture, and so we've sort of talked about Roseanne and like why it's worth rewatching because of where it might like lead us and how fun it is to just appreciate it for what it is in itself. So if that makes sense, that's sort of the concept of this podcast, and I'm sure that we don't have to talk about it anymore. It'll just become whatever it is, and your feedback is welcome too, like what you like, maybe what you're interested in. We could talk about Seinfeld too, or movies. And like I said, I love musicals. I love music. It's almost just like don't get me started because like I won't stop. Like if I can just talk about Roseanne, maybe. uh, if that makes sense, I might be able to like rein that in a little bit, but I'm also like, well, we might just also talk about Radiohead and Roseanne or Seinfeld and Phantom of the Opera and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the Don Yasmond run and version exclusively. No, just kidding. But that's what I'm saying is like there's just so much to talk about, and I think that it will allow us to because Roseanne is like a production. It's writers and producers and craftsmen, like as far as like the sets and the fashion and everything goes, like really creating a vision. It's like Roseanne is playing a character, even though she was a comedian. That's not her. That's not John Goodman. But it seems like it is, and everyone is just totally um, like committed to a strong vision, and it really does, I think, warrant like some attention and love, and like I said, people probably haven't seen it in years, and I do think it's worth revisiting, like for all these reasons and more. I'm out. If this was Shark Tank, and for that reason, I'm out. Okay, so then there's also the Xanadu side, which we're just gonna have to like integrate as we go because it's going to require me to like be a little more vulnerable than just talking about Roseanne. But I think that since I'm just gonna give it a try and like let it sort of come up as it does, it should be fun and well integrated as the show goes on. Like I hope it's not just fun for me, is what I mean. I hope it's fun for the listener too. So I'm just gonna say sort of what like my understanding of Xanadu the term is, and then we can um probably just talk about the episode then. But I thought it was worth mentioning because now that we've talked about the Roseanne side and like all of that, it's also just sort of worth going through what the other part of the whole thing is. So my understanding of Xanadu is that it's like become sort of like a metaphor instead of like a real thing that we imagine when we say Xanadu. Um, but what literally Xanadu was like um, I guess it was like based on a real place that a ruler in Mongolia had. I mean, that's just my understanding of it. I could know more about it, but that was like a place where he would fulfill all of his whims, and like I don't know what those whims were, if I would personally agree with them or not, right? But it's like now Xanadu has sort of become more away from that, like more of a metaphor for just like idealistic, like utopic, almost to the extreme, like lavish, lush. Like I guess some people would picture like Citizen Kane or like uh, Michael Jackson's like Neverland Ranch and sort of call them like Xanadu something. But I think it's like I'm trying to maybe like co opt that term and, just personally, it doesn't need to be in the greater world. But for myself, when I picture Xanadu, it's my own idealistic thing based on like lots of, I guess we could say, inner work and like realization and like just, having done a lot of imagining for like what my life could be, and what I deserve and stuff. And like I think that that is sort of harkening back to the first episode of this when we talked about like visualization very briefly. But your imagination is very powerful, and if you can see it and feel it and imagine it, you can experience it. So why not? Why not like play and shoot for the stars? You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the Xanadu side where, and again, it's like I'm sort of just talking it out loud for the first time because I haven't even really spoken about it on this podcast. So it's like I have certainly thought about it a lot and like journaled sort of in this vein a lot, and just thought about the concept for the podcast a lot, obviously, but haven't really like talked about it a lot. So, I'll probably just like leave it at that and say we're just trying to rebuild a better world, like for us and like the next generations. I personally have a kid and I want better for him from like a person as a parent than what I was exposed to. And I know I've succeeded in that in many ways. And then I want like better for myself too. So it's like that's requiring me to use my imagination, believe in myself, and believe in like a better world than like what's been handed to me. You know what I mean? So I think that if I had to sort of summarize, which I know this hasn't been brief, but that's just kind of what I'm aiming for is like to explore it, talk about it, maybe touch on things I've learned in my journey along the way. So I guess I could have just said that, but hey, that wouldn't be fun. Podcasts aren't fun when they're 10 minutes long, right? All right, sweet. I think that we're probably ready to talk about episode 4. Let's do it. So episode 4 is called language lessons. There we go. Thank you. Language lessons. All right, so there's so many good Jackie moments. We finally get to see Jackie. I mean, she was in the last episode a bit, and but this is like we're seeing her more in the Jackie role and not just some sort of extra character, I feel. And it's really good. Like I said, it's got laundry, school projects, chili, siblings staying over on your couch, right? Like all that good stuff. That just makes it like super cozy. And then you do sort of get to know the characters a little bit better, each one of them. So, and then, like I said, episode 5, we start getting a little more momentum in the season, and that's going to be a really good episode to talk about. This one was pretty light. It's basically just Roseanne and Dan are sort of waiting to hear if Dan gets a job, and he ends up not getting it, and it sort of puts him over the edge, like all that stress. And he's being, really mean to Jackie, and like he's not happy that she's got to stay there for a couple nights, and or just for the night, I guess. I think she's just staying there for fun because it's Saturday night. I forget. I'm terrible, but it's okay. It's Roseanne. It's okay. We're not gonna hit every single plot point, but yeah. So it's basically just Jackie and Dan, sort of their contempt, their antagonistic ways coming to a head, and then breaking, and sort of getting a resolution to where they can just be sort of nicer to each other now and like know that they're close. And it doesn't seem like it comes back around really, except for sometimes he's a little annoyed and sometimes she eggs him on, and that's just sort of their whole thing, Jackie and Dan. But it's like more loving and seems like it's coming from more of a place of love now from this episode on. Let's see. So many good Jackie moments, and I wrote down that DJ and Roseanne seem like they're real mother and son, because that is literally how Jay and I have always acted, like the putting the foreheads together. And I mean, obviously, anyone who's ever like babysat kids knows that happens like pretty quick, but they just seem so sweet, and like he seems like he literally loves her. And I meant to say that too, in the theme song since DJ came on, where he's in the little theme song, the opening credits. He just literally seems like he loves her so much. Oh, it's just a little bit too cute because I have a son and I like know exactly how that feels when they're like, because he seems like he's tired in the opening credits, like he's tired and he just needs a hug and like a resting spot. And so my favorite part of the episode is probably in this first few minutes when Roseanne and Dan are in the laundry room and they just have a silly little slap fight. And it reminded me so much of when, I'm trying to remember what episode it was, when Elaine and Jerry in Seinfeld, of course, are having their slap fight, and and Kramer breaks them up. It's seriously one of the best moments of Seinfeld. And this slap fight just literally was like exactly like that. I think that Roseanne came out first. I think that Seinfeld came out in '89, right? So this would have been first. Obviously, in that slap fight in Seinfeld was not in the first season. I know that much. I think, gosh, if I just think about it for a second, I would know, but it's okay. You probably know it too if you know Seinfeld. So, just a wonderful episode. They're fighting. We see just them going around the house and Dan just sort of being really silly and then like mean to Jackie too. And I'm like, well, why is he so upset? Like, it's been literally obviously, if Becky is 16, it's probably been like this for 16 years, or she's 15 or whatever. All right, so yeah, just really basic stuff happening, but so many wonderful moments. The way it all comes to a head is when Becky comes in with her magazine and she wants to do a little game to bring couples closer together. So they get Roseanne and Dan in the middle of the kitchen. And I noticed too that the kitchen looks a lot more like where everything is now. Like the table is where it is, it's not in the middle of the kitchen anymore. It's like everything looks more spacious. So one of the questions is to have Roseanne transfer an emotion to Dan through her hands. So of course first she like slaps him on the face a tiny bit, and it was really cute. They have such good chemistry, and I think that my mom said that when they were casting it, he was like one of the first people they saw. John Goodman was, and then they just were like, we're not even gonna see anyone else. Like we're just gonna, go with John. And I think she also said that this was like one of his first gigs too, which is crazy because I always saw him as like a really big movie star, which like he definitely was, of course. But I just thought, that he was before this, which is cool because he must have been, I think he was like in his late 30s when they started Roseanne. Yeah, but anyway. So this game just basically devolves into it sort of coming out that like Dan is annoyed by Jackie, and then Jackie like sort of won't let it go. She like wants to know why, which I mean, fair enough. She wants to know why. She genuinely seems, like, oh, like why are you so annoyed? Like, not that he doesn't have his reasons or like that it's not, it's fair on his point of view. Everyone has their point of view, so it's just nice that it does come to like the head, where there's a breaking point and then Dan makes a joke and it's all fine. And that happens in like I think the next scene because they fight, Dan and Jackie fight, and then Dan storms out, goes to the garage, and one of the best parts again. So we have the slapping scene in the laundry room, but then I thought the best line was when Roseanne was like, "Oh, sis, you simply must come over more often." And I just really liked it because I felt like Roseanne was starting to really give, like, she's not an actor, I guess. Like, so they hired good actors for the show, which, like, is amazing. That's like what they did in Seinfeld too. But she's like becoming a good little actor, and she's really giving 100%, just like the rest of them. Like, not that she wasn't before, because she definitely was. But I think that maybe she's just sort of getting her like acting chops a little bit more, or like her acting legs, like she just seems like she's really Roseanne in that moment, and like not just giving the line, which is a really good line. I don't know, I just really believed it. So then, I mean, there is the B plot of Darlene's little project that DJ ruins, and the girls are like, well, you always favorite, DJ. He never gets in trouble, even when he does shit. And, it results in Roseanne and DJ having like a moment where she's sort of talking to him. I think it's like the first time in the series where they really have like a sit down moment. And it's just so cute, so precious. And then we see the little moment of them touching foreheads and being silly. All right, so then we have everyone's made up. Dan made a joke. He broke the tension, and they talk about how controlling Roseanne is, and it's just cute. And he's like, "You don't have to go. You can stay." And it's very just wonderful, and sets the stage, like I said, for like their relationship going forward. And how they're really just like good friends. So yeah, because Roseanne came in and was like, she's over here all the time because she's my sister, and it's really cute. And again, she really is giving, all of it that she can. She really seems like she is Roseanne. I just love it because I know that she like did this character on in like stand up and stuff. I've never actually watched it because I just couldn't imagine. It's probably I don't know if cringe is the right word, but you know what I mean. But yeah, she's really into it. She's like treating Roseanne like a really real person, and so that's who like we're seeing. And I really just love it so much. Makes me happy. It's a wonderful performance on all their parts, and just totally makes you believe in their little family and world, and makes you want more, and all that good stuff. So then the little ending is Dan is watching a movie on the couch, and Jackie comes out and she's like, "Come on, I want to go to bed." And Dan is like, "This is the best part," and da da da. And then Roseanne comes out, and her and Jackie look at each other. And then they tip that old couch over and push Dan right off. So that was a great little ending. And it always makes me wonder what is going on with that couch. Like, it doesn't look like a real couch because it never looks like squishy. Like, it looks comfy, but it just looks maybe like there's like plywood underneath the cushions or something because of how much they do to it. And I don't think it'd be that easy to push Dan out of that couch than it looked. But yeah, so that's episode 4. What a wonderful show. I'm excited to talk about the next episode because it's really sweet. And we'll probably start having more guests on. And I can't say who the guest for the next one will be because I don't know yet. But there's a few coming on, and I know Jay will be back on. And I just hope that you're enjoying this podcast. And, if you are, feel free to like share it, tell a friend, subscribe, and even leave us a review, right? Because I mean, that's just what everyone says. So I'm going to say it too. We're doing it. How fun would that be? Yeah, leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you love, and tell us what your favorite podcast is, because that's what Jay wanted to hear from everyone last time. And all right, so we're going to listen to another theme song from Roseanne, but you guys are not going to be able to hear it picked up on my microphone, so I am going to have to cut it in later, sadly. um, until I figure out how to get this microphone to pick up more than just my voice, or maybe it can't, and just have to figure out another way. Record it on my phone at the same time or something. But either way, this one, it won't be live for you guys, but hopefully it'll still sound good to you guys, and then we'll come back and rate it. So let's see. Today I'll choose the one that is on Spotify, and it's Roseanne, the main title theme by TV Themes, and it's in bright purple. All right, so thank you guys so much for being here. You can email me. I'll put my email in the description. You can find me on Instagram if that's easier, or if we're friends, drop me a line somehow. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. This is a fun little journey for me, and I'm happy to have you. And it's going to be fun. So I hope that you have a great rest of your day or night, and let's listen to this fun little theme song. Wow, that was so good. I think that was actually from a season of Roseanne. Some of these are covers, I can tell, because I've heard the theme song a million times at least. But yeah, I love that one, and I have to give it 10 out of 10 because that saxophone was just giving me life. And I tell ya, they knew what they were doing with that theme song. All right, and the intro is from season 9, I believe, episode 4, when the prince sees Jackie and saying, "I helped pick the numbers." So delightful as always. I do love that season. I know some people don't love it as much, but it's still pretty fun. And I mean the theme song, you cannot beat it. All right, everyone. Thank you again for being here, and hope to see you next time on Rosexanadu. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.